Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it a couple minutes to let some additional board members join, so everyone can hang out, and we'll check back in once we've got a couple more folks logged in. Hi again, everyone. We do have a quorum of board members, but it appears that we don't have our chair joined us yet. I don't know if our co-chair, Director Averill, would be willing to take us through the agenda until there's David. Would you be willing to take us through the agenda?
Of course. Sorry, I have a little background noise going on here. I hope it doesn't come through. Contractor showed up right when we start the meeting. So anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, let me get the agenda open and we'll do welcome and roll call. How do you like to handle that, Kay?
So I can give you a status of the roll call. So we have Director Trowbridge, Director Jones, Director Averill, Director Blinn, and Director Coffin online. Director Takushi and Director Block are excused. I haven't received any notification from Director Garcia or Director Frommer on their status for today.
Fair enough.
We do have 5, which is a quorum.
Okay, great. And then I guess we'll just take a look at the agenda review real quick. We'll have approval of minutes, program administrator update, enterprise financial updates, updates on the NOFA, and then a legal update. I don't think there's any mechanism to add anything if we wanted to, but I'd leave that to Kay as the knowledgeable party.
If anyone would like to add something, we can add it before we end. I do think it's going to be a fairly short meeting today.
Cool. Well, with that, let's move on to the approval of minutes. Did anybody have any questions after reviewing them, or concerns or edits or anything like that? Doesn't sound like it. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the May 2nd, 2023 CTE board meeting.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Great, thanks. Do I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Looks like the minutes from the May meeting are approved. Okay, I guess that puts us on to you.
All right, I have a very brief update. So first of all, I wanted to introduce you to Paul DeRocher. He's our new DTR director who started last Monday. So he is going to become more involved with this board going forward. So I wanted to give him just a few moments to introduce himself, and we can share his contact information. It's part of the invitation to the meeting if anyone wants to reach out directly to establish contact with Paul. So Paul, go ahead and give a quick intro.
Yeah, thanks, Kay. As Kay mentioned, name's Paul DeRocher. I've been working in transit for about 15 years in various capacities. The last 7 were with RTD, and actually in that role, I was helping our AGM of bus operations arrange a scope of work for our low-no emissions fleet and facilities transition plan. So I'm definitely familiar with clean transit and I guess the initiatives associated with that. Yeah, it's my 2nd week, and as you can imagine, there's a lot to take in. I think there's a ton of really, really great opportunities here, especially with the crossover with what Kay's working on in the Office of Innovative Mobility. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being able to I guess help resolve some of the issues that are happening in DTR right now with granting. But I'm happy to see that, there's a lot of really great progress already going on that. So great staff and great sort of path for the future here. So just excited to get on board and learn and hear what you guys have on the agenda. So thanks, Kay.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Welcome again. In terms of other updates, we had talked at our May meeting about doing a joint meeting in August as a lunch meeting with the Transportation Commission, because they meet with all the enterprise boards in that format typically throughout the year. We have had several commissioners reach their term limit, and we're waiting on the governor's office to make all of the commission appointments. So we've had scaled back Transportation Commission meetings for the last couple of months, waiting for all the new commissioners to be appointed. So in the interest of waiting until we had our full new commission in place, we're going to punt on the lunch until that occurs. So I'll keep in touch with the Transportation Commission secretary and give an update. I understand most folks may not want to travel to an in-person meeting in the winter months, so we'll just look for the next opportunity during a hopefully easy travel season for everyone to do that in-person meeting. Could be October, but we'll keep an eye out and keep you posted once we learn more about the timeline for those commission appointments. And then just a quick update on our Clean Transit Enterprise funding opportunities. You'll hear more specifically about the planning notice of funding availability that later in the agenda, but did want to reiterate that our planning notice did go out in May with applications due just a couple weeks ago in July. And we will be making recommendations to the board at our October meeting related to the planning notice of funding availability. On the capital side, this is vehicles, infrastructure, and facilities. We are still in the process of making the capital awards from the last round. And one of the things that we discovered was with the super call, as it was known, where we did planning, capital, mobility management, kind of all the categories of funding that we passed through all at once. It created a big bottleneck in the system, and the capital awards are the ones that are still working their way through. And because of the timing of that, a lot of the state price agreement information needs to be updated. So we've sat down with our team and said, really, when do we need to release a capital notice so that from the point that people apply for the awards, they get selected for an award and they're able to get through the contract, we don't have to go in and amend that contract multiple times because the pricing has changed, because that's just not a good use of anyone's time to make an award and then have to change the award because the dollar amounts change during that process. So it sounds like the appropriate time for us to release the capital notice will be more like winter of 2023. At that point, we'll have all updated pricing for the agencies. And again, it will cause that, it will correct the problem of us having to go and touch the awards multiple times because of pricing changes that happen during the awarding process. So more to come on that. I think we were hoping to get it out a little sooner, but in the end, we want to have an efficient process for everyone and think it'll be best to do that more like winter and then have those grant funds awarded over the course of the following six months or so. Any questions for me? All right, if not, I think I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Chair, and we'll roll into our financial updates.
Sounds good. Is the other Kay or Celeste ready to go on that?
Yeah. This is Kay. I'm here. Yes, this is Kay Haruska, your enterprise controller, and this is the budget to actual for CTE through June of 2023. This is for basically the whole fiscal year, but these numbers still should be considered subject to change as we're still doing some year-end accounting entries on our end. I don't see them changing very much, but just please keep in mind that they could change slightly. And then I believe Celeste has an update from the budget perspective.
Thanks, Kay. Hi, everyone. I will go on to the revenue/budget update. So this is the final picture of the Clean Transit Enterprise portion of the retail delivery fee. So all of the collections from when the fee started last summer through the end of June. And it looks like our forecast was quite spot on. The amount that was collected for CTE was $8,435,364 in total. So it came in about $155,000 higher than the forecast. So pretty spot on. And that's great to know that the forecast was pretty accurate. So that is the final picture for the retail delivery fee. And if we go on to the next slide, we do have a decision item related to the budget as well. So this stemmed from the most recent legislative cycle, and there was the Senate Bill 23-143 that passed that exempts small businesses with retail sales less than or equal to $500,000 from paying the retail delivery fee. And so this resulted in a little bit of a reduction in revenue for all of the enterprises, as well as for a couple of CDOT's funding sources. So this chart shows the impact to each of those areas. And as we can see for Clean Transit Enterprise, the reduction for fiscal year 23 was just $34,020. And then the FY24 reduction is $150,000 approximately. So since CTE's budget is legislatively appropriated, we need to hold a vote in order to approve the new budget with this to reflect this revenue reduction. So I will show the revised budget on the next slide. So the left-hand side shows the revision to the fiscal year 23 budget. So we just reduced the admin line by 34,000. So that new revised allocation for fiscal year 23 is $8,246,309. And same thing for FY24. We reduced the FY24 budget, proposed budget to $8,982,450. And that reduction came from the admin line. So we're proposing not to reduce the amount that the enterprise has available for programmed funds and for grants. This would just come out of the operating expenses, which, as we saw from the budget to actuals, the enterprise has been spending quite a bit less than budgeted on salaries and professional services and those types of expenses. So wanted to open up to questions. Does anyone have any questions about the new budget before we move on to a vote? Excellent. And I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chair, for the next slide. I believe we have a motion to adopt the revised budget.
That's great. Thanks for providing that. I guess barring any questions, I would entertain a motion, this proposed motion, for the board to consider.
I move for the Clean Transit Enterprise to adopt the revised fiscal year 2022-23 and 2023-24 budgets based on the recommendations of enterprise staff.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Do we have a second?
I second.
Is there any further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your thumb. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Doesn't sound like it. The motion passes. We have a new budget.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You bet.
So we can go ahead to the next slide now that we've done that. So staff brought the board at the last meeting this proposed policy directive, and we received a couple of questions and we incorporated that feedback into a revised version. So I wanted to, for those who weren't here at the last meeting, give a super brief overview of the policy directive and then highlight the changes that we made. So quickly, the purpose of the PD, compliance with statutes and other regulations, and then really the main purpose is to delineate which decisions could be made by staff and which would be worthy of going to the board to make that decision. And then we have the categories. So the draft policy directive was in your packet for this week. And the categories are the board reviews and approves, staff informs the board. So the staff has decided, but will bring it to the board at the meeting. And then finally, staff manage. So they are able to have the ability to actually conduct those actions. So the categories are primarily financial. There's the annual budget development, budget management, revenue related items, and then miscellaneous / project transactions. And Desiree, if we can go on to the next slide. So this slide shows the new category that was added. So we received a question related to the timing of the grant cycle and how that corresponds to CDOT's, or I should say Clean Transit Enterprises kind of budget schedule and budget setting schedule. And so staff added the section plan next year's estimated grants rebate loan expenses prior to the OSPB deadline. Since if the enterprise ends up having higher planned expenditures for the grant program or for just their general programmed funds, that will have to be submitted to the legislature in accordance with OSPB's deadlines. So those deadlines tend to change every year, so we kept it kind of general in the PD and also linked to the OSPB website. So there's a component of planning the expenses prior to the deadline and then ensuring that, you know, that's all submitted. So the staff would report on that to the board. And I believe that's the only change that we actually made. If we go to the next slide, I can just quickly run down the rest of the categories. So board review and vote, that section would be adoption of the next fiscal year budget, adoption of a spending plan, addition of new budget categories / budget transfers that are at least $150,000, any adjustments to fees and the associated rulemaking, any changes made to the budget at the beginning of the year, any changes to like loan terms or agreements with transit agencies or CDOT, and any use of the contingency reserve. Items that would be at the report to board level would be budget adjustments that are come in under $150,000. Let's say staff wanted to make a shuffle between staff salaries and consultant payments or something like that. If the amount is under $150,000, that would be acceptable if this PD is accepted by the board. And then financial and other required reporting. So the budget to actuals and all of those other reports like the annual report and such like that. And then staff manage would be budget adjustments under 150,000, financial and those are all the same. Okay, ensure approved project funds are budgeted and spent. I think I repeated 2 of those categories, but I believe that the staff manage would be budget adjustments under $150,000. The reporting would go to the board, and then ensuring the project funds are budgeted and spent. So there is some overlap, but this PD is also in the board materials as well. So I think that is all I had. Wanted to just review the change that I made and see if there were any comments, any further feedback, or if the board is open to adopting the policy directive.
Yeah, do we have any questions for Celeste on the PD? In my review, nothing jumped out at me as being like a red flag or anything like that. It seems pretty balanced. The only question I would have, you mentioned it, I always look for feedback loops for the board to consider, you know, maybe programmatic changes and things like that. I assume that those are in those other reports as required, maybe the annual report. Could you describe to me what's in the annual, is it in an annual report that we might see as a board?
Yeah, so the annual report provides like outcomes from the previous year on how the program has progressed, you know, if the enterprise is meeting its requirements, the amount that's been spent. So yeah, I think it's just a report to the legislature at the end of the year, kind of as a recap.
Perfect. Everything we need. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Doesn't sound like it, Celeste.
Wonderful. All right, well, we can go on to the next slide. I don't necessarily know if we need to do Well, I guess maybe we can do a motion and if you'd like, but I'll leave that to what you think is best.
Yeah, I think for policy directives, we would need a formal vote of the board that everyone's agreeing to this. And I think at the last meeting when we discussed, everyone thought that this was on the right track, maybe a couple suggested changes, but we wanted to wait until the next meeting. At this point, all the board members, with the exception of Director Fromer, have seen a presentation on this and had a chance to weigh in. So from my perspective, I'm comfortable with calling to a vote if the chair is.
Yeah, I think that's a excellent suggestion. To that end, I'd entertain this motion that Celeste has prepared here for us to consider.
I move for the enterprise to adopt the CTE budget policy directive.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? I don't think so. All those in favor, say aye or raise your thumb. Any opposed, do the opposite. I think we have a unanimous approval.
Thank you, everyone. I'm all set with my portion.
Great. I think moving on, then we would get to an update on the NOFA from Michael or Jan.
Hello, good afternoon to the directors. Yes, so we're going to give a brief update on the planning grant applications that we received in the recent round of applications that closed in July. We have a total of 5 applications that came in for the ZEV transition planning grant category. They total $375,000 worth of requests for funding. And so currently our staff is organizing the scoring committee, which is comprised of subject matter experts from the Division of Transit and Rail, the Office of Innovative Mobility, Division of Transportation Development, and the Environmental Justice and Equity Branch. All of those are at CDOT, plus our colleagues at the Colorado Energy Office, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, CASTA, and a representative of the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. So this is a sort of typical committee that we have for these types of projects to get a mix of expertise to weigh in on the proposals. We'll be meeting twice to review those and score them and make recommendations that we will then present to the CTE board at your next meeting for your review and potential approval. And so at this time, we weren't planning to share the specifics of any applications until we've had a chance to review them and make a recommendation to you, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't recall there being a cap on the amount of funding that was available. Is that correct?
There was not a specific cap, as I recall. We have in our budget some estimates for how much of each of the 4 categories. And so I would say that this is well within what we were anticipating awarding in the planning category.
Great. And then just like, what's your reaction? Did you expect more or less than 5 applications? Just your general sort of reaction to the response?
Personally, I would say I was hoping for more, but I think that 5 is actually more than we've received in previous rounds of the grant funding. So it's better than past years, maybe not as much as I was hoping for this year, but hopefully this represents we're starting to see a bit of a snowball effect and more interest.
Great.
And I'd pass it to Jan if he has any additional context to add, because this is, of course, just one piece of the broader DTR call for planning, admin, and operating projects. So Jan can speak to how these will all be integrated.
Yeah, hello board, I'm Jan Rowe. I'm the Assistant Director of Transit Programs over in DTR. So yeah, typically we would award these types of projects as well on our side through FTA 5304 funds. So this amount of applications does kind of match up to what we see every year. Obviously, OIM has had their separate program in the years past, but this is definitely expected. We have definitely seen transition plans at a lot of agencies as well, who are kind of financially ready to go down that road. So I think this is just kind of a typical adoption plan that we're seeing here. So the numbers are really not surprising, but like Mike said, personally, I wish they were higher, but we shall see. So.
Are there any other questions for Michael or Jan while we have them?
If we go to the next slide, I'll just note as a reminder, we discussed this with the board in the lead up to the call for projects, but the grant evaluation criteria you can see here, project need and benefit at 35% of the overall weighting, equity, inclusivity, access to DI communities at 30, and then readiness, agency capacity, and application quality rounding it out. So when we bring our recommendations to the board, we will talk about if a certain application scored well in one category but not others, how that all played out. And of course, these sort of weightings and criteria are something that we can adjust as we go in future rounds of the grant program as needed. I believe that is it for me. If we go to the next.
Great. Well, thanks, Michael and Jan, and good luck with your evaluations. We're looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Thank you.
Great. And then the next update is the next item is the legal update. George or Kathy, you want to take it away?
No problem. Good morning, board. George Hippolyte, Attorney General's office. Just wanted to provide a very quick high-level legal update. There's been I guess a tiny bit of a development in the proceedings. Tomorrow, August 9th, at about 1 p.m., there's going to be an oral argument on the state's motion to dismiss the complaint. If all of you remember, the state moved to dismiss the complaint on several grounds, most notably that the plaintiffs didn't state a claim upon which relief can be granted, which simply means even if you add up all of their allegations, they haven't said enough that if they were correct, the court can grant them the relief they're requesting. So that hearing is going to take place tomorrow on August 9th. Shelby Krantz from the state's office, another assistant attorney general, is going to be arguing the motion. I think both Kathy and I plan on being there. So at the next meeting, hopefully we'll be able to report how that went and any potential resolution that came from that. That is really the update. I'm happy to answer any questions if members of the board have any additional questions. Everybody, please don't jump at once.
No questions, and it doesn't sound like Kathy has anything to add. Kathy, do you have anything to add?
I don't. No, it's been briefed for a full year. I've been just updating my memory of all of this. It was, I mean, the wheels of justice do not turn, they turn slow, I guess. So it's been fully briefed almost a full year. Well, yeah, August 22nd of 2022. And we are now just getting an oral argument on the motion to dismiss. So it's, at least it's some progress. So yeah, we'll have more to report. It's not I guess I do have a few things to say. This is just a motion to dismiss. If the judge does not grant the state's motion to dismiss, we'll just have to defend the merits. It will be disappointing, but it's not, it doesn't mean that we've lost. We will just have to start doing discovery and actually defending the merits of it. But it'd be great to get it dismissed just outright, but we should know pretty soon about that.
I guess it's also fair to mention one of the reasons for the delay is our original judge that the case was filed, that was set, and the case was before, moved to a criminal docket and we got a new judge. So that is part of why it's taken so long to get the oral argument on the calendar and getting us to this point. That sort of explains a good portion of the delay.
Great. Well, thanks for that to both of you. I guess if there's no other questions, we can either take a roundtable update, or do I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, I have one more announcement that's sort of related. This Friday will be my last day with the Attorney General's office. I've accepted a position to become the next city attorney for the city of Pueblo. So I just wanted to make that announcement to the board and everyone, so everyone knows.
Well, thanks for letting us know, and we'll miss you, and good luck in Pueblo.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kay, is there anything else we need to do today?
We just have a quick wrap up slide at the end, and I think just to summarize a little bit for the meeting, I feel like there was a flurry of activity when the board stood up, and we kind of warned that it'd be a little boring for a few months. So we're definitely in that spot where we're approving the budgets and approving the minutes and kind of doing all the administrative things that we need to do. I'm hoping things are going to get a little more exciting in October, because we're going to have grant awards for you to look at. So that'll be exciting. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 10th from 2 to 4. As Mike and Jan mentioned, we should have our recommendation on the planning awards and an update on the release for the capital awards. And we do have a lot of budget work to do in October, along with also compiling our required annual report to the Transportation Commission and the legislature. So there will be a little more at that meeting, but if your calendar is as busy as mine right now, hopefully ending an hour and 15 minutes early isn't too big of a problem. So I appreciate people's time today to continue making forward progress and doing the required things we're supposed to do. We'll have more to talk about when we meet in October.
Great. Thanks, Kay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Can I do that?
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.